tonight we will be learning some new words, but no new concepts. That's great news. No new concepts, but some new words. But before we do that, I want to kind of get us going on. This is going to be kind of a mixture of review for us and kind of pushing us forward into what tonight's lesson is. So, if one of you would volunteer for me to come up and diagram this sentence, the circling, underline, whoever doesn't do it gets to translate it for us. Okay? Gets to translate it. So,
which one do you want?
Oh man, I don't know
Pick
if I
your
could
poison.
do either. I don't know if I could do either.
I'll take this.
and granted, we've seen this before, so this is nothing new. So see what we can come up with. And if you want to communicate and kind of come up with this together, that's fine with me.
Oh, is this John 1:1?
Yeah, sure is.
Okay. Okay.
So where do we start? What do we do with that first thing? What do we got there?
That's a preposition, right?
Yeah, that's a preposition. So what do we do at the very beginning? Yeah, put in parentheses. And is a verb. It's in the nominative case.
Right.
Is our conjunction. Nominative case.
Right.
Verb.
Right.
Pros.
Tom, theon.
It's a preposition.
Yeah, it's a preposition, so it begins a prepositional phrase. And where does it end? Yep, we're at the comma.
Right.
That's starting a new thought.
Right. Another conjunction.
Okay. The os is in what case? Remember, you learned this as a vocabulary word just like that. So what case does that mean it's in?
I want to say dative.
No, not dative.
If the vocabulary, is that nominative? If it's
Yeah,
the
it's a
vocabulary?
nominative. Yeah.
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 That's nominative.
Oh, yeah.
Good. All right, I went ahead and underlined that one for you, so you know that's in the nominative case as a new word.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
a new one, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
In, arcade, pros, tante. All righty. Okay, thank you. All right, Chris, let's see if we can do this. You don't have to, I'm not going to let you worry about this word.
Okay.
Actually, well, keep translating, see how much you can translate that, and we'll get to this last phrase and I'll explain it.
Okay.
Okay, so what do we got?
Well, that's the first one is the preposition. That's in beginning.
In beginning or in.
I remember that.
It's kind of, prepositional phrases are typically definite by their nature.
Okay.
So we would say in the beginning, right?
Okay. Is.
Not is, but was. Right.
Okay.
That's the imperfect of a me.
Imperfect.
In the beginning was halagos.
Definite article and word. So
the word.
The word.
Kai.
And
halagos.
And the word.
The word. Was. Pros ton theon.
Pros ton theon. Pros. Ooh, is that?
Actually, with?
With, yes. That's one of the three definitions he gives you in the book. It's either to, toward, or with. And
To, toward, or with.
Here we use with. So with, literally it's saying what? With
the God?
The God, literally.
Right.
But we wouldn't say that. We would just say with God.
With
right?
God.
Okay.
And well, straight across, it's God was the Word.
Right, straight across.
The Word was God?
Yeah, the Word was God. Here the idea is that this has a definite article, which meaning if there's like a pecking order here, that this is really acting as the nominative subject.
Okay.
And this is kind of acting as a nominative predicate.
Okay.
So you would say, this
The
is the subject. The Word was, guess who he was? He was God. He was deity, right?
And didn't you say that they put theos there first?
Or emphasis.
Like emphasis, preeminence.
And it doesn't have a definite article. There's probably several explanations to why it doesn't have a definite article there. Part of it is to show you that this is still the subject. Is the word is the subject.
Okay.
And a lot of times when something doesn't have a definite article, it doesn't mean it's indefinite necessarily. Sometimes it means it's describing a quality to it. So the quality of the word was God.
Okay, so the fact that there's a definite article on theon, could you say that that would carry over to this, or could this be a totally different instance of the word God?
That's a good question. I hadn't really thought about that one. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay. Okay.
But definitely over there, you can see that it's talking possibly about some sort of person, like the God.
Sure.
Like there's no just
Sure.
we know who we're talking about.
And we can't say that it's referring back to something else because this is the first verse. Okay.
Okay. So now this is a new word for us, hutos, and this is one of the words we're learning tonight.
Okay.
Hutos. Literally, this word means this by itself.
This.
This.
Okay.
Can you see this os is already telling us a couple things about this? Can you tell that it is what case?
No.
Can you tell what gender it is?
Os is masculine.
It's masculine. Okay. And can you tell, is it singular or plural?
Singular.
Singular.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is referring back to something that is masculine,
and singular.
nominative, plural.
Okay.
I mean, singular, sorry. So what is this referring back to?
The word?
Right, halagos, the word. Okay. So and this kind of it's a demonstrative pronoun. What we're learning tonight.
Demonstrative pronoun.
So it's referring back. They have antecedents just like other pronouns do that we've learned. Like we've learned ego is a pronoun. We've learned altos is a pronoun. Those kind of things. So it's referring back to the word, and it means this. So, but it's kind of in a sense, it's kind of has a substantival use. Remember when we talked about adjectives? So because it's got a substantival use, you wouldn't just say this. You could say this one, right?
This one.
And that in this construction here is actually an overly literal translation to that, to say this one. You'll read in the textbook that one of the three uses of hutos, in this case, this is the third use of it, and most translations will just say he. Because they know exactly who it's referring back to.
Okay.
So that they'll just go, he was in the beginning with God.
With God.
So this is, again, when you read the textbook, you'll see this. He actually cites this as an example in the book as one of the third uses of the demonstrative pronouns. It's just referring back to something that's clearly been explained. And so then you just call it he, she, or it. So an overly literal translation of this could be this one. Okay? So this one was in the word. That's who we're talking about.
Okay.
So that's a demonstrative pronoun. I just wanted to kind of get us started with some scripture tonight.
And I'm sorry, give me, what's the definition of a demonstrative pronoun? Is it one that, I mean, all pronouns relate back to some other noun.
Yeah.
Right? So what makes it demonstrative?
I don't really know the answer to that question, to be honest with you. Sometimes I'm trying to read here at the beginning of this discussion to see if he addresses that specifically. So a lot of times it's a demonstrative construction is used in the Latin. I point out this construction really consists of a demonstrative pronoun. So I mean,
at the very beginning, it says when it is desired to call attention to the designated object, a demonstrative construction is used.
Okay.
So it's attention to a specific object.
Yeah.
As opposed to.
And there are.
Yeah, I mean, that just sounds like forceful, right? I mean, like there should be some significance just for the fact that it's demonstrative.
Well, let's look at demonstrative pronouns in English because this makes this kind of easy for us. There are two demonstrative pronouns in English. These are not the words I'm just writing out. There is a near demonstrative pronoun, and there is what is called a remote demonstrative pronoun, or maybe a far off demonstrative pronoun.
Okay.
So the near, remember hutos, how do we translate that? By not overly, but just how do we translate it?
This one.
This. Okay? So that's the near. what would be the remote?
That.
That. That's it.
Oh, okay.
That's all we're learning this lesson. This and that.
This and that.
Just a little this and that.
Are English demonstrative pronouns.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, let's take it just
I think I ever knew that.
one step further.
I know I did.
One step further in English. Make that plural.
These.
These.
Okay.
Make that plural.
Those.
Those. Okay? So the object of today's lesson is to learn
Okay.
this, that, these, and those.
Okay.
Alright? And again, learning new words, this, that, these, and those, but not a new concept.
Sure.
Because when we look at these paradigms, you're going to go, oh,
Sure.
okay, I see that. Alright, so now turn to page 80, if you haven't already, and let's look at hutos. Okay? Let's look at the paradigm of hutos. On page 80, bottom of page 80 there. Now, with the exception of kind of pretty much the nominatives, the genitive, the dative, and the accusative all look pretty much the same. Can you see how the nominative masculine and the genitive masculine don't look exactly alike in terms of the lexical morpheme? You see that's different?
Oh, sure.
But that's exactly what we learned in the definite article, right?
Sure.
That all those nominatives were one form, and then they took a tau at the beginning, and then they just kind of moved on. So it's very similar. But look at the masculine column. You got hutos, tutu, that's fun, tuto, and tuton. Do you see the endings os, u, o, on? What declension is that?
Second?
Second declension. We've learned that before. We've seen it 100 times now, right? We've seen it with adjectives. We've seen it with, we saw it with the third person personal pronoun, right? So we've seen this again. Now we've got the feminine column, talte, tautes, taute, tautane.
Say the first one again?
Palte.
Halte. Okay.
Yeah, there's a rough breathing mark there. That's going to be significant for us later, so make a note of that. Halte, the rough breathing mark there. So it goes a, ace, a, ain. What declension is that following?
A, ace, a, ain.
What declensions have we just studied so far?
First.
Yes, the first declension. So all feminines are going to follow the first declension.
Yeah.
It's going to make more sense.
Everything we've done feminine has been first.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Rarely, if ever, I've seen it ever deviate from the first declension when you're learning a new paradigm for the feminines. Then you got the neuters there. But I want you to look at the plurals now. I mean, you can see the exact same thing with the plurals. The masculine, oi, own, ois, us. Feminines, I, own, ice, os. Nothing new. Nothing new. So every single one of those words is this, right? Or at least in the singular column. All of those are this. All the plurals are what? These. Okay? Then you jump over to the next page, page 81. Akanos. Akanos is that. Okay? So just like we saw, masculine follows the second declension, feminine follows the first, neuter follows the second, and 2-1-2 pattern. Plurals do the exact same thing. So you got akanos, akanu, akano, akanon. Plurals be akanoi, akanon, akanois, and akanus. Okay? So these, or those. Now remember that you still make the case with a genitive. What word do you think of? What's the helping word with the genitive? Of. So if you saw the masculine genitive singular of akanos, you'd have akanu. You wouldn't just say that, you would say of that. Same thing with the dative. What's the helping word with the dative? To. So akano is what? To that. Okay? Same thing. Nothing new in concepts. We're just repeating the same stuff over and over again and learning two brand new words using the same paradigms we've seen before. So, great news for us because this lesson is pretty light in that sense. The next section is the only other section in this chapter because then it talks about the uses and then it goes into vocabulary. I mean, it's really short. Okay. So there's three main uses of the demonstrative pronoun. And the first one, and its most common usage, is it basically is modifying a noun. Okay? The way it does it in Greek is interesting. The noun must be accompanied by the definite article.
Noun must be accompanied by the definite article.
The demonstrative pronoun will not be. So in this example, translate hutas ha anthropos. Over translated, I guess.
This the man?
This the man would be the over translation. Smooth it out.
This man.
This man. You could have the exact same thing like this. Now it's saying the man this. It's almost like as if it's saying the man this one. Right? But that construction is the exact same thing as this, just the word order's flipped. So this also means this man. So it's modifying this noun. It's agreeing in gender, number, and case.
Right.
Okay? It's modifying this noun. The noun in both of these examples is accompanied by the definite article, and the demonstrative pronoun is not. Okay? That's the most common usage.
In contrast to John 1:1.
Mm-hmm. Again, this is like the third use. This is the first use.
Yeah, this is the first use. John 1:1 is not an example.
Yeah. Okay. This is the first use, and that's going to be the third use.
Okay.
Let me look at my notes here real quick. So, and same thing, both the near and the remote.
So it's demonstrative, maybe demonstrate.
Demonstrative.
Is that?
Yeah.
Is that
I guess.
demonstrates the noun?
I guess.
Look into that for us. You can get on Wikipedia and see what we got. Same thing with the the remote. How would you translate ekenos ha anthropos in a smooth English translation?
That
man.
That man, right? How about if we did it like this?
This is still first use, you're saying?
Yeah, still the first use. How about that one? How would you translate that?
Those men.
Those men.
Yeah.
Perfect, because it's plural.
Right.
Okay, so that's the first usage. Let's look at the, actually, I'm going to use the first example and transition us into the second example, or the second usage here, rather. So I'm going to write this one out here. So we got hutos ha anthropos blepe ton kurion. All right. So go ahead and translate this. Actually, let's do this together. Ready? This man sees the Lord. Good. Okay. So this man sees the Lord. Let me transition us now into the second use. So this could be maybe flagged as the first one.
Okay.
First use, most common usage. All right. Now the second usage, just very much like an adjective, it's being used substantively. Okay, substantively. So now this demonstrative pronoun is standing in the place of a noun because there is no noun stated.
Okay.
Standing in the place, substituting for a noun. You still translate it this, but remember it also has gender and number and case and all that stuff.
Right.
So what gender are we here?
Masculine.
This guy.
This guy, yeah. This man. This man sees
The Lord.
the Lord. What is this one? How did you translate that?
This man.
This man sees the Lord. Translate number 2.
Mm.
This man sees the Lord. Okay? Are you catching my drift now?
Sure.
All right.
What did you call that second case?
The second use is kind of like a substantival use. What if I did, so that's the feminine version of that. How would I translate that?
This
woman
sees the Lord.
Sees the Lord. Okay? You
Absolutely.
picking it up?
Yeah,
It's pretty easy. I mean, there's nothing really hard here. And the third use is exactly...
So it would never... Well, okay. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And the third use, just to recap, is what's been used right here. He basically says, finally, demonstrative pronouns may be used to refer to persons mentioned in the immediately preceding context. In such cases, they're best translated simply as he, she, or they. And he gives you John 1:2 as an example of that. So that's the third use. Sometimes for me, while I'm translating through my Greek, I tend to be a little over literal at times to get the force of the Greek across before I smooth out my English. So in this case of hutos, a lot of times I would actually start off by saying, this one was in the beginning with God. And then as I get more comfortable with my English translations from the Greek, then I'd be okay with going, he was in the beginning with God.
Gotcha.
The only issue for me is when I see he, I'm thinking of maybe a third person personal pronoun. I'm looking at my Greek and I don't find it. I find a demonstrative pronoun. I'm like, oh, okay.
Right, that's what I was going to ask
Yeah.
there. It wouldn't be appropriate for, how would we say that?
Halte?
Halte? To put she there, right?
Yeah. Because we have no other context before that to know that we were talking about a woman.
Okay.
Right. But here we do. We got halagos.
Sure.
I mean, it's all over the place.
Sure.
So, those are the three uses of the demonstrative pronouns.
Okay.
This, that, these, those. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So vocabulary from that is akanos is that, and hutos is this. And of course, if you make them plural, those and these, right?